welcome, and he was even willing to get dates with me with the movie actresses if I wanted, but I didn't want to have any part of that. I just wanted a fence.
And how was, did you do some stage, did you sort of get interested in stage fighting at that time, or was it
At that
just sort
time,
of-
yes. Mhm.
So were you helping him do that, or?
I was learning from him.
You were learning from him?
Yes, and he would have me be the straight man
Yeah.
whom the stunt man would work against.
Oh, I see, yeah,
See, but then when it went to the actual movies, it would be the actors.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
So how long were you in the Philippines?
I was in the Philippines a total of about 7 years. in
7
all,
years,
you know.
yeah.
Mhm.
What, I remember you once telling me about the stick fighting you've seen
Yes,
in
our
the
niece.
Philippines. Yeah.
Mhm.
And what was your experience with that?
Well, I didn't do it, but I
You were
but I
observing
observed it. I
that.
observed it, and I observed it out in the provinces.
Mhm.
And the stick fighting would be at some of the fiestas
Mhm.
in the provinces, the festivals,
Mhm.
and it was people would bet on it, just like they would bet on cockfights.
Uh-huh.
And I once saw a father and son stick fighting, and by God, you know, you're holding these two sticks. They're more than sticks. They're more like the heavy end of a cue stick
Uh-huh.
in
Yeah.
pool.
Yeah.
They're more like that.
How long are they?
They were about
3 feet,
2 feet
2.5
long,
feet,
about 2
2
feet
feet
long.
long.
They were shorter than a saber blade.
Yeah.
But you had the two sticks, and then you had two lines that you couldn't step over your line, and they couldn't step forward over their line. So you had to be at a set distance from one another,
Uh-huh.
and you could go up to that line, but not beyond it.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and it would be sort of like a curb in front of you. You'd have to lift your foot up to go over it.
Yeah.
And so therefore, if you broke that was a foul.
Yeah.
So you couldn't do that. But you could move your sticks any way you wanted to.
Uh-huh.
And boy, the way those guys would move them, both arms going.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden somebody would faint, boom, and then hit on the other side.
Wow.
So from that standpoint, it was almost like saber,
Yeah.
you know? And I saw this one guy knock his son out with one of these moves. Boy, that's real fencing.
Was that, so they didn't wear any padding or anything, or did they?
They didn't
have
wear
something?
any padding,
Oh my
none
God.
whatsoever. They were bare-chested.
Oh my God. But a lot of times they're parrying, and like both
Sure,
hands.
they're parrying with both hands, but then they'd stop. Each one had parried the other.
Yeah.
And then they'd break and start over again.
Yeah. Interesting. And what is that called again?
Arnis, A-R-N-I-S.
I see.
Arnis.
Did you take anything from that, or did you?
I never bothered to learn it.
You know,
But I could appreciate it fully, yes.
while you were in the Philippines, you were continuing defense all the time. But
Once in a while, I was pretty busy traveling around
Yeah.
in the pharmaceutical business there, and whenever I got back into Manila, I would head for the fencing club at the local YMCA, and that was where I was also first introduced to Kung Fu,
mm,
the martial arts system. And who taught me? Well, it was another fellow who was, he was a teacher of Kung Fu. He was a Filipino who had gone up to Japan and to China, and he had learned the Asiatic method of fighting. And he introduced me to it by saying, look, supposing I insult you, Eric. I asked him, what about this? How good is this? Supposing I insult you, Eric. And I said, well, maybe I'll insult you back. And he said, supposing I do this. And he went like this on my face, you know? And I started for him. Immediately, he disappeared. His body dropped down, and one of his feet kicked back and just stopped, just short of my solar plexus.
yeah.
And he said, this is the kind of thing that I'm teaching our policemen now.
Yeah.
Wow! That was a whole new game again
Yeah.
of combat. And so he taught me a couple of the different things that the police learned, but I never put them into practice myself. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I got an appreciation of that kind of fighting
Yeah.
there while I was still in the Philippines, before it had even hit the west coast of the United States. Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Mhm.
So after about 7 or 8 years, you leave the Philippines and you're back to.
I went
Where
back to New York and then up to Boston. You know.
Were you in New York long, or just?
No, not after I came back.
Yeah.
I left the pharmaceutical business because I just didn't want to be in it anymore, and Natalie wanted to raise the kids here in the United States, so I decided I might as well change. So I went into the financial